Hey guys and gals, welcome again to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show. We're joined here again every other Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific to talk about Bitcoin. I'm the host, as always, the one at the One Vortex. You can find me on Twitter at the One Vortex. And we got some awesome guests tonight again. Here we go. We got Dustin from the BTC Art Gallery. How you doing, Dustin? We got Daniel over here from You and Me and BTC.
Yeah, doing great. Doing great. Glad to be here after a few weeks break.
Yeah, for sure. We're glad to have you back. And we actually a long time no see for our next panelist, Gabriel. Thanks again for joining us, man. Awesome. Yeah, Gabriel joined us a bunch in the beginning. It's been a while since he's been on the show, so we're really glad to have him here tonight. Let's see here, guys. We got a pretty packed show here. We got a lot of links to go. We got a lot of discussion to start with. And first thing I'd really like to bring up and talk about, let me just paste in the link one more time just so everybody in the chat has it. Okay, so the first topic I'd like to actually talk about here is basically private blockchain. So I've kind of titled it Beyond Private Blockchains. And basically, I just wanted to have a discussion about private ledgers. We sort of had a discussion about private blockchains and such in the past, but I want to bring it up again because R3 seems to be in the news a lot like crazy, and I know that people might be getting confused and want to know more about what the heck this is and what it has to do with Bitcoin. There's really been a lot of articles on CoinDesk and on various other news sites, Reddit and such like that. And so first, I just wanted to maybe say a little bit about my piece a little bit, and then I'd like to get the feedback on the rest of the guests here. So real quick, I've noticed there's that R3 has been kind of filling up the news with all sorts of stuff about their private ledger, about the systems that they're building, these private distributed ledgers, and how they're trying to distance themselves now from blockchain, which of course tried to distance itself from Bitcoin. And they are bringing up all of the software that they're talking about. They're bringing up all the software that they're creating. They're talking about linking banks together. They're talking about now having more than 40 banks together collected, all together running over this. And they're now talking about running tests between a few of these. And so my quick take on this is I want people to understand that this kind of software that these banks are launching are basically vaporware. There is no way, in my opinion, that most of this software is ever going to hit the streets, ever going to hit the market, ever going to allow actual users to play with it, to try with it. In fact, I don't even think that the banks are going to be able to launch the software to work between each other. I don't think that they're going to trust each other enough, and I don't think that they're going to build a system secure enough within their private laboratories that's going to be able to withstand, the type of environment that Bitcoin has been brought up in from the beginning. So I think that this type of stuff is, again, repeating itself back from the early internet days, about when a lot of people tried to create their own private internets back and before the AOL days. People wanted the internet. They wanted the internet, but they just didn't want the public part of it. They wanted just the private part of it. They wanted to have complete control. And we're seeing this repeated again with the banks and the blockchain. And so first, let me ask Gabriel. I wanted to see what you think about all the news recently about this R3 putting all their stuff in the news, trying to gain, some momentum, trying to gain some control trying to get some eyeballs, right, as the marketing people would say. And I wanted to get your take on what you think about all this news from R3.
Well, I was actually pleasantly surprised to note that the gentleman, the article that I read a couple days ago, the guy from R3 that was being interviewed for, I believe, CoinDesk, made a very honest assessment of the private blockchain scene by saying, hey, they brought me in to create a product to increase efficiencies in interbank transfers, and I looked at the blockchain technology and I saw that it was of no use to us. However, some of the cryptographic methods and techniques that are integrated into the Bitcoin blockchain or into the blockchain technology idea were possibly of use. So we cobbled together our product out of those pieces. And so I thought that was really great to see somebody not just like declaiming this magic sort of approach like Blythe Masters, like, oh my God, the blockchain is just going to solve all our problems. And when they don't really realize that the thing that made Bitcoin such a big success has been its openness and its networking nature. That's exactly the analogy you made earlier, the intranet versus internet in the 90s. The executives at the telecom companies thought that TCP/IP was the invention, thought that the worldwide, that HTML and in combination with hypertext transfer requests was the innovation, when of course it was actually connecting human beings in a permissionless fashion with innovation at the edges and no center. That was the true revolution. And that's why nobody talks about intranets, because it's just some random thing that's hardly anybody except for the biggest corporations have an intranet anymore. And it's of very little use to them still to this day. It's basically, you might want to have a bit of an extra, wall, extra firewall for your internal file serving. But, for security concerns. So that, it's of some use. And banking is a classic, example of needing high security, needing strong cryptography. They've been using it since the 70s anyways for their own uses, for intra-bank, once again, within the same bank. And as you pointed out, there are a lot of concerns when you have a distributed ledger with trusted parties. And the problem is these banks are competitors. They're not trusted parties. They're not working in the same company. So there's definitely a lot of concerns there. However, it's not a blockchain. So there could be some interesting limited uses here that these banks are going to do. For all we know, they're going to save 2 or 3% every year on their interbank business. It's just amazing what these, and it's all going to go into the golden parachutes and CEO bonuses. It's nearly irrelevant for virtually everybody in the whole world.
So it seems like basically what they're doing right now is really they're just funneling all this money. Their banks, they're really funneling all this money into all this research and all this development on all this talk of creating private ledgers, private distributed ledgers, private blockchain systems, private blockchain-like systems. And you see just exorbitant amounts of millions being spent. You see in marketing, you see every day they're trying to take market share. They're trying to say, look, we've done this now. We've connected 100 banks. We've made 1,000 transactions. We've made just very fairly early stuff, but only executed in their private, laboratory, private stuff, private networks. And so, how the heck do they actually plan to compete with Bitcoin? I'm not actually sure, but
just on a business level, let me mention that the reason why they're throwing a bunch of money into that is the same reason why the telecom companies were throwing a lot of their money into TCP/IP and intranet research. It's because they knew the writing was on the wall. They knew that their whole business model was being totally disrupted and they were about to fall off a cliff, and they were just throwing random money at it just in case they could possibly squeak through.
Exactly.
Same thing here.
Yep. I agree with that. Yep. Daniel, I will let you go next. What do you think about R3 and all of their news lately, trying to gain all this news market share?
Yeah.
What do you think about their software? Do you think it's going to do work? Do you tell us?
So I mean, overall, I agree with you. It's vaporware. It's kind of pointless. It's not going to really serve any useful purpose. I would say that it might hang around a little longer than you think, or it might, because even like Gabriel just said, there are still some big corporations that have intranets. So, and the banks are big and they can do what they want. And so, sure, they might, I wouldn't say that they'll never get off the ground. A couple banks might have a successful blockchain, depending on how you define successful. It won't serve any real purpose, but I could see it existing for a decade or two, just because people see the banks using it and they're like, all right, yeah, let's whatever, the banks use it. So I wouldn't say it's completely vaporware, but I agree that it's pointless, it's useless. If you're gonna have it permissioned anyway, why not just use a regular database? It's way more efficient. So I agree with lots of that, but still, I mean, even I have nodes on the internet that hopefully are pretty private, right? Hopefully, I have nodes here that hopefully I'm the only one that can access. I mean, file servers and whatnot. So there is a place for private, connections on a completely open plane, I guess. So I think that kind of stuff will hang around, and the big corporations will have some power for a while. But yeah, I agree. It's kind of pointless.
So it seems like, so for example, I work for a corporation, a fairly large software development corporation, and we have an intranet, but what we put on there, of course, is just our local files, like our PTOs, our paid time off documents, and, simple things like that, relating to do with whatever projects we're working on. So of course, they're going to have a private, ledgers or private systems for handling with coin and things like that. But isn't that pretty much the same as, what the exchanges are doing now? They're going to have like some off-chain stuff, privately, locally. They're going to have maybe some, wallets, addresses locally. This is just information. They're not going to actually store money in those private systems, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good comparison, because that is what Coinbase. If you can send money to another Coinbase user off chain. That's exactly what they do, and it's like an internal private connection, and it serves some kind of purpose. It is nice if to deposit to my purse account instantly because I do it through Coinbase. There's a limited purpose there, but it's not nearly as revolutionary as they claim that it is. Bitcoin is revolutionary. Private databases are just private databases.
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. Looks like we just lost Gabriel. Try it again. There we go. We'll accept in there. So yeah, that actually that makes sense. And before I get to Dustin, I just want to say that this kind of stuff is kind of well known in the Bitcoin community, and people who watch follow prominent people in the community like Andreas Antonopoulos and stuff like that. But again, we're trying to just get this information out to everybody as possible and get as many people viewing this as possible. So that includes the non-techies. We're trying to help people wade through this crazy news stories, because the standard media outlets just are doing a horrible job. They're not going to do it right. They're going to report on wrong things. They're going to exaggerate the wrong points, and so we want to make sure that we clear as much of this information up as possible. So Dustin, let me hear what you think then on these private systems, on R3, maybe specifically on their recent grab into the recent news grab, and is their systems actually useful, and will we ever actually see them hit the light of day? You're on mute, Dustin.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh wait, I want to wait for Gabriel to get in here. Gabriel. Okay, so my turn to answer the question about R3. Does anyone else here read the R3 blog? R3's blog? Anybody? Nobody? Yes. Yes. I cite it. I keep it in my little research bin there. They got good stuff. You guys gotta see what the bankers. They have a whole little their own comedy about us. They'll take memes out of Reddit, put them in there, and be like, "Look, they're making fun of the bankers coming, huh?" It's really good. I have 100% belief that it will be probably a big success for them. I think R3 will be a big success for them. And then just a question of how you quantify. You're going to then try to compare Bitcoin's success to their success. And their success isn't actually implementing Bitcoin in the system. It's all private blockchains, and they could make some really good private blockchains. I don't know why you'd want to make private blockchains, but they could make some brilliant private blockchains that are so inefficient at data management and handling data that no one would ever want to attack the system, simply because it's the most retarded blockchain you've ever seen. I'm hoping that the bankers fork some of my favorite altcoins from back in the day. I hope they get some black coin, and I hope each bank picks a different altcoin to mimic, and then they'll have all the same problems that we did at the beginning. But R3 is, I totally disagree with the previous responses. You didn't even need to ask me questions. I'm with those guys. Actually.
All right, that's fine. That's cool.
I just wanted to point out, I read the blog. It's great. It has really good writing.
Interesting, very interesting indeed.
Of course, they can afford the best.
Yeah, I think they follow me on Twitter, so they're right behind us.
All right. So I think we can all agree that for the vast majority, all of this news that R3 is putting out and all of this, hype that's being built up around these private ledgers and private blockchains are all just pretty much that, just hype. Because at the end of the day, those aren't that's not the innovation. Private databases, private transfer between private systems is not the innovation. The innovation is Bitcoin, because the innovation is the open, public, distributed ledger. The immutable, permissionless, borderless system that anybody can be participating in. That is the innovation. Just like the internet, and just like Gabriel said, it's the openness that's the innovation, and it's the openness that's going to make the system work and these types of systems work. So, all right, so we'll move it on to the next topic here. Let's see here. So yeah, so I wanted to bring this up. I'm going to paste this into the link. Yep, that's correct. Yes, Horace in the chat is definitely saying, they're just going to make it closed source fashion and, make it nothing more than a ledger. I mean, exactly. Just to bring one final point, all of these statistics that they're saying, like we connected these 100 banks, or we did this much, all of it cannot be proven. They will not release actual information that we can prove ever about any of this information that they're building. So all of these systems that they're building,
mean a blockchain?
We got this much throughput with our private blockchain. We got this much, this many transactions. We got sent this much money. All of that is not provable. So anything they say, is pretty much bullshit, because we cannot prove it. We have to take their word on it. And as we know, banks aren't the most truthful entities in the world.
Before we move on, I don't want to delay things too much, but something that comes to mind that you're mentioning here, not being able to prove it, is Liquid. And now this is an example of an off-blockchain solution with non-trusted parties or semi-trusted parties. It's a very similar project, actually, to these distributed ledgers or private blockchains. And the Liquid system is meant to ease large transfers between Bitcoin exchanges, so that they can, as the name implies, increase liquidity on the back end. And I think that's really great. Whatever, do your stuff. I think it's fine to screw around with databases and and hashing hashing each entry in your database based on the previous one. Great, sure, it's been done before since the 80s. Do it again. Try to make a new way. Try to shave a few % off your crap. I really don't.
Yeah, and I think neither does the rest of the world once they look a little bit deeper into what the heck they're saying, for sure. All the interesting scientists, the PhDs, the people that are really interested in changing the world and not just a paycheck, they're all working on these amazing projects. They're the ones that worked on the internet, and they are the ones that are working on Bitcoin. So with that, we can move along to the next subject here. Let me just paste this in. So, this news just broke actually today. About Mr. Patrick Byrne here, the CEO of Overstock. He has taken a medical leave, and I just wanted to publicly, on our show, just kind of wish him well, wish him the best, because his efforts in the crypto space can not and never will, I think, be undervalued, because or be truly appreciated for what they were, because he was the first. To remind people, his website was the first that started accepting Bitcoin, Overstock.com. He was the first to push this type of technology on Wall Street with his TO platform. And so he really, and he's of course, very public enemy of Wall Street in general, has been trying to prove all sorts of different corruption that has been going on Wall Street for many years, actually decades. And he actually did prove a bunch of stuff. And at the time, people called him crazy. And then, half a decade to a little bit closer to a decade later, and it's all out in the papers. Everything that he said, every last thing that he said was true. So, I just wanted to go around the round table and just maybe have everybody say a word about Patrick and maybe wish him the best, and just see maybe how he affected you, and maybe how he got you into Bitcoin, maybe, or maybe how he has helped the community in your opinion. Let's start with Gabriel.
Yeah, it was a really strange announcement. I felt a lot of compassion for Patrick. He's, like you said, he's brought a lot of eyeballs and legitimacy into the space from the well-established company, a well-established entrepreneur with defined libertarian and classical liberal influences. And as you said, the community owes him a lot for that attention and the spotlight he's placed on Bitcoin. Plus, his company was the first large retail operation to accept Bitcoin in early 2014, I believe that was. It was huge news. At the time, nobody even pays attention when companies do it now, because it's rightly so, in my opinion. Retail acceptance is not really the measure or gauge for the success of Bitcoin. A little bit, sort of spiritually, but not sort of nuts and bolts. But at that time, it was a big message to send to the world. And I just like to say that, of course, I wish him a speedy recovery. And it's fishy to me, too. I don't know how he got it, but I definitely, my gut tells me there's a possibility of foul play here. Hepatitis C is something that could be gotten from blood transfusions, if I'm not mistaken. So a stay in the hospital can even induce this disease, certainly contaminated needles. So I hope that's not the case, but I wouldn't be surprised considering the shady tricks and just straight up evil things that banking cabals have done in the past. For example, bankrolling both sides of most wars in modern history. So I wouldn't be put it past them to, do something shady like that, just to take somebody out of commission temporarily, that little thorn in their side. So with his, new blockchain project that he uses for short-term lending, giant amounts of money in the back end of Wall Street, basically, is what his project's for. And that could be a real upset. Apparently, I mean, he's basically going after the DTCC settlement network's main form of income, and that he's complained for many years allows basically what we would call double spending in the Bitcoin space. It's basically, lending out your shares and then you're just multiplying and hypothecating your shares and completely destroying the scarce nature of equities. So I hope he's all the best, and I hope that that's not the case, and he just, used to be a heroin addict or something like that. And he's doing.
Yeah, I can't help but agree that the foul play here something really smells fishy, because, I mean, again, he's going after one of the most profitable things on the planet, and he's going after it hard, public, and with actual technology that could replace it. I mean, this is real deal stuff, and he's open and he's public about it. And so I just really wouldn't put it past them to be able to do something fishy like this, because, I mean, again, look at the guy. He introduced me to a lot of philosophy. I mean, this guy is a smart person, very smart, very understanding of himself, knows himself better than I think most people know themselves. And that's maybe partially why he was able to achieve so much in his life and achieve just achieve the reach that he has with his information. So, because a lot of people could get shut down real quick, but he refused to be shut down. He just kept going and kept going, and I really think that where we are now today, I agree that it could very well be foul play. So I too wish him the best. Daniel, What do you think about this?
Yeah,
News.
I'm with you guys. I think he's done great things. I mean, even though I mean I've never used Overstock and I'm not sure what it really has on Amazon, but I mean I know people use it and I know it's a big name and so that's the biggest thing is it because it's a big name and they took Bitcoin, then yes, of course that made a big difference. And even I remember when the news first came out, I remember telling my mom, and to my knowledge, she's never used Overstock either, but it made a big difference for her. She's like, "Wow, maybe that's something to to actually consider. Maybe you're not crazy." But so I like that. And then yeah, I was also going to mention your point about philosophy because I got to hear him speak in DC, and I've heard a couple of his other speeches online. And yeah, it's not like I mean, it would be pretty easy for people to say, "Oh, he's just a rich guy with a big company, a big corporate, whatever." I mean, even if he doesn't like Wall Street, he's still just a rich guy who can do and say whatever he wants. And I mean, I don't know, maybe that's true, but when you hear him talk about philosophy, it gets you thinking like, wow, he's thought about all this stuff. He knows what's behind it. And I mean, I hate philosophy, and and we joke about that on our show because people ask the same questions for ages and ages, and it's hard to come up with good answers. But even though I hate the fact that it's hard to come to good conclusions, we still talk about philosophy on the show all the time, and we still think it's really interesting. It's really meaningful to talk over and to consider, and if you know it and if you understand it, I think that makes you a pretty. I mean, just the fact that you think about anything makes you more worth listening to, and I think that's what he did. I think he's smart. I think he had good ideas, and he did good things. So yeah, I hope he can continue before long.
Yeah, I really hope. Of course, we really hope that he gets better, but I really hope that if he doesn't, that I really hope the people that he put in charge will continue his legacy as he really wanted it to be. And it's going to be hard to do that, but I really hope that they can continue with their TO project, continue disintermediating and disrupting the DTCC and the rest of the corruption on Wall Street. Even though the DTCC is like really where a vast majority of it lies. I mean, that's kind of where all of the modern mafia and modern gangs and modern type of thug kind of stuff comes from. So that's some bad stuff there. Dustin, I'll go to you next. What do you have to say on what do you think about this news?
I guess I echo their feelings about this. It's sad. My brain honestly was already processing other Bitcoin news. So his project with Wall Street that Gabe was talking about actually is really interesting. Has huge potential because the speed at which they try to move money around to provide normal liquidity in the market is extremely handicapped. And so if they could speed that up even by, and then from what I saw, Bitcoin Talk had a huge expose piece on this. The efficiency it brings to that market is like 50%. So it's really, it's a huge improvement. If he was able to pull it all the way through, he'd be a hero to them if they already didn't hate him. And I like that. I like that they hate him. I'm for anybody they hate. I'm for. That's the kind of guy I want to be rooting for. So I just want to wish him well and all that.
Cool. Yep. So definitely get better, Pat. We all wish you the best. And so before we move on to the next topic, if everybody watching could just go ahead and tweet out that we're here on the show live here talking Bitcoin. We'd appreciate it. You can click the tweet button or the Facebook button there on the left-hand side. Let's see. We appreciate as many views as we can get, trying to reach as many people as possible here. Let's see. So now on to another discussion. So this is more going to be of a discussion than news, really. I'd like to talk about some of this information that came out recently regarding the Panama Papers. So basically, I want to kind of have a quick discussion on leaks in general and the future of encryption. So I'm going to go around this time. I'm going to go around everybody's first, and then I'll go last. So Gabriel first. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Panama Papers. Basically, kind of what are your thoughts on this particular leak, this specific leak, and then leaks in the future, and then how it relates to encryption and what encryption might look like in the future as well. Or so regarding this Panama, how it relates to it, not what it looks like, but how it relates.
Well, I mean, we're basically well into the age of leaks, with the extreme ease of information transfer and storage. Huge amounts of information are extraordinarily easy to transport and carry. So, for example, this leak was 3.5 terabytes, which is something you can fit in the palm of your hand, basically a 1.5-inch drive, or larger. But if you have a backpack, it's something extremely small, or you can send it online in a matter of an hour, maybe a few hours, with a good connection. So you're talking about this large amount of data, a huge amount of data as far as its impact in society, but basically trivial on a technological side. So we're well into this age of leaks, and this is just one of the latest high-profile ones. The timing is very suspicious. The method of dissemination, unlike a WikiLeaks style dissemination where they're like, "Here you go, world," this is more of a controlled political style leak, where it was given very limited access to Western media only, and it was very specifically targeting non-Western political targets first. So it's quite obviously a political smear job. And I think it seems to me so far the main point, other than trying to topple someone's political enemies, which is an obvious result. I feel like one of the main points that I'm not seeing a whole lot of people discuss is to whip up the common man, to whip up the naive populace into condemning, that's you, into condemning leaders for tax evasion when the common man does not have that option, but also sidestepping the question of the morality and ethics of taxation in the first place, and using the assumption that large state and large government taxation is a legitimate enterprise in order to engage in guilt-ridden tirades and engage in character assassination and smear campaigns on these political figures. So it's kind of a way to shift the blame off of just the government structure in general, which is where the real problems lie in society, and to place it on these figureheads that people can easily topple over and pretend like the situation has been solved. And I'm pretty sure that this technique is going to backfire, but it's still working for a while. But we're still in the beginning of this leak phase where we're heading into, in my opinion, during this century, we're heading, or over maybe the next 3 centuries, we're heading into a world of 100% transparency. You're not going to be able to have any secrets, even if you want them at some point. It'll be so incredibly difficult to have any secret whatsoever at a certain point that it will actually become impossible. And as we've already been going into this era, or as they say on the East Coast, for many decades. we already have a situation where people can, their communications can be tapped, and surveillance is pervasive. The 20th century, we're already in a low privacy environment, but with this new era of leaks and very high technology with micro drones and other surveillance tech, and this is not just government surveillance. I'm talking about ubiquitous surveillance. Average person, you'll be able to pick up a drone for $1.20, or for a couple of micro Bitcoin, and stick them anywhere and have your 3D camera, record 50 days, before it has to return to you. It's going to be like that, and then not even to mention consciousness technology that's going to be coming down the pike at some point, where really we're all sharing the same mind, actually, as recent science has shown, and there are no actual secrets in your head that can't be perceived by all other conscious beings at some level. So we're seeing the beginning cracks of this. They're trying to use it for these smear campaign uses. It's backfiring, as you see in Iceland. It's not just going to be lopping off the head and replacing another marionette in its place. You're seeing the pirate party gaining huge percentage in the polls in Iceland, and that's a small bellwether for what's to come. We're seeing that already in the United States with these alternative candidates getting a huge amount of support. That's just beginning. It's a trend that is not going to be reversed or be steady. It's going to rapidly continue in this direction.
It seems like this was just like you said, this seems like it was not a standard leak. This was a predetermined leak by higher authorities that completely strategically leaked this to specific people. It's at a specific time. You can look at the data and just look at not one single U.S. person mentioned. Like there is nothing about the U.S. No U.S. citizens were mentioned in this. That right there is just the hugest amount of fishiness that I've ever seen, and when it comes to the leaks. So again, I think I agree with you totally that it's they're just trying to have people point to people that they can just quick lop off the head and change it again. But I did not. I wasn't quite aware that wasn't going to work so well until you mentioned those other stories, those about people, how they're actually going deeper than just the person. They're actually in Iceland going to reform. Going to actual tax reform and in some areas of the law. So I really hope that this is not just another just chop off the minister's head and then boom, the new guy will make everything.
That's what they would like, but unfortunately for them, the ground is shifting beneath their feet, and we're going to see systemic impact from these leaks. Not
awesome. That's what I hope. So Daniel, I'd like to go to you next and see what you think about these Panama Papers, and tell me, do they seem kind of fishy to you the way this was leaked, or what do you think?
So the first thing I have to say is it's funny because I work for a certain kind of media organization, but I don't keep up with any of this. So I don't even know what it's all about, to be honest. But here's the thing: leaks. If it's a true leak from the government, I'm all for it. I want people to know what they're up to. I don't even care if it's one government stealing and leaking information from another one. It's still. If as much information as we can gain on them.
Hey Daniel, it's not a government leak. It was a leak of a law firm in Panama that was offshore accounts.
Okay, so actually that's another thing I was going to get into is even if it's not government, how do I feel about private leaks, or if people stole information from like Apple or something? And the truth is, I don't think I care. I still think that would be a good thing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily right to attack a private company and steal information and leak it. But the truth is, if they're a company that's not going to protect important information, then they deserve it. Privacy is an important thing in the society that we desire, and you got to keep your information safe. And if you lose it, people should know that you're not good at keeping information.
Yeah, you know, I just want also people to remember too that the amount of, Gabriel said there was terabytes of data here, and I wanted people to understand that this is still just one law firm protecting one tax haven in the world. This is just the beginning. I think that this is going to really be huge. I think we're going to get a lot more of these leaks about tax evasion. I mean, come on, that's surface level stuff here. We're going to get some real leaks about what's really going on. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, I think we're really going to get some stuff leaked. Hopefully, even maybe, you know, some UFO stuff. Hopefully, more and more will be leaked. There was been some talk about that being released. You know, I think Hillary Clinton said some stuff about it. So we'll see how that plays out. So go to Dustin. Finally, what do you think, Dustin, on this article, or on this Panama leaks, on these Panama leaks?
I have to follow all of that, man. Like you said, like UFOs, and then Daniel said that he didn't give a shit, and then Gabriel was all like, transhumanism is coming down the pipeline, so fuck it all. How am I supposed to follow this? Okay, I had ideas. I had like my own personal ideas about the issue.
You got to write notes.
I lost those. I lost those by listening to you fuckers. Okay. Notes. Yeah, I got to be taking long, detailed notes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Look at you. Yeah, writing up by the singularity. Got a chart right there, changing the math live. Are you, Gabe? Okay.
That's right.
So, we're talking about the Panama Papers. That doesn't fucking matter. We're all talking about the Panama Papers. It doesn't fucking matter because Panama Papers are like one of the 1,000 law firms that does that. And so it's showing you like the tip of the iceberg that could sink the Titanic. And they're just cruising around in the fog being like, wonder when we're going to hit it. I mean, it's great. It should get all the publicity it can. People need to know about this stuff if they're ill-informed. Everyone already knew this was going on. And as to Gabriel's point, I've always wanted to respond to you because I see you in the Bitcoin group and you're sitting there with your swarmy intellectual responses and you're taking things to the next level. Nobody can keep up with that. Well,
I believe the term is smarmy, not swarmy.
All right. So I might have got my memes mixed up there. But so there are perfectly legitimate reasons to have an offshore bank account. And I've watched a lot of people I know argue those points because we're in the Bitcoin space, and that's all about preserving financial privacy. And so some of the same arguments work in different ways in that space. So you can't just condemn it all. And you can't say we're going to jump to some greater level before we work these problems out. The idea that this is targeted only at over international law firms is a simple deduction of the United States allows offshore companies to be hosted in the United States. 99% of United States companies, people who are interested in hosting their money in offshore accounts, goes to Delaware, goes to, what is it, Texas or Utah or something is the other major states. And they host these companies. That's why they're not in that account. That's why they weren't revealed. To say that it's a political maneuver is making a whole wild aspirations of claims, because then you can draw lines back. So I watch the info report. Oh God, that shit'll blow your mind of who the Panama Papers were secretly leaked by. It goes back to George Soros, right? And it's all, you know, to take out political enemies here and there. And I buy that. I'm 100% in, as much as I'm also in the fact that Americans just weren't included because they've shelled their companies in state, right? And because that was a lot financially easier for them to do. I don't know what the current internet's position is on that. I haven't been on Reddit today. It seems to shift. how we feel about that. But the general sentiment, I think, is legacy problems with the old system are good for Bitcoin. That's all I can summarize everything into.
I can't
is that.
disagree with you there, man. That's very astute. All right, now, very cool, very cool. So, so definitely, you know,
we should give Gabe a chance to respond to all my allegations.
Oh yeah, do you have anything to say about his allegations?
Wild. Yeah, I actually completely agree that this is actually, while it's an attempted smear job, I don't necessarily agree at all that anything was done that is morally wrong. While certain things might have been illegal, I have absolutely no problem with people evading taxes personally. I actually, you know, I don't have any problem with that at all. That's why I say, you know, the real point is, you know, it's this terrible thing, evading taxes. Well, you know, what if you think taxes are immoral? Then you're actually doing the right thing by your own beliefs.
I don't like having to take this position because I'm pro paying taxes. Actually, I'm one of those guys. But the exclusion of that argument in this particular situation is a lack of, you know, the completeness.
So that's the problem. If you have human beings in the government, then they're going to try not to pay tax, and you're going to have to pay tax. That's the whole issue. You know?
But this is fucking retarded simple. They release a Bitcoin wallet. They put the tax in the Bitcoin wallet. Done.
Well, someone's got to come by with a gun to force you to pay, though, if it's taxed. Unless it's tax.
No. You will opt in. You will choose to opt in.
That's not tax.
Okay.
That's taxines. That's donations and contributing voluntarily.
You can choose not to pay your taxes now. You can choose not to pay your taxes now. There's just penalties.
They already have a Bitcoin client that takes fees for every transaction you make, and it pays people that actually do a good service.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Which one?
What is that?
Which wallet is that?
There's a transaction fee on every
Multibit does that. They fund their development with transaction fees.
Well,
I meant the government doing it, like IRS Bitcoin wallet.
Right. But my point was just that, you know, people opt in, people pay transaction fees for Bitcoin because they get a good service out of it, and you shouldn't have to opt in.
I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding as well, even for people like Dustin, who don't understand where your tax money actually goes.
No. The point is, in a Bitcoin system, you would know exactly where the money went.
Yes, for sure.
And therefore, you could assign, I want my money to go toward this kind of stuff. I want my money to go towards that kind of stuff in the government, right? Yep,
that's the goal.
You would need government officials trying to make up their mind on what the people want supported.
That's not government. Right? That's not taxation, and that's not government. You're describing the private sector. You're describing buying services.
We hope, though, that the government...
It would be private sector if it was owned. So Bitcoin isn't owned, though, right? So what is that?
You're talking about people gathering money to spend money for projects. Those are people.
Yeah, right. But that's not the private sector.
If you're not using guns and saying other people can't use guns to enforce the rules, then if you're not doing that...
This is why I've always wanted to argue with you, Gabriel.
This is technically true.
On the Bitcoin group, and like you take things to the extreme fucking level.
Is that extreme? Like, look at the Obama quote. He says that it's based.
No. I would say my argument would be they can buy it. The government can buy it.
Can buy what?
That whatever the government can buy it. So if they like Bitcoin, they can buy that. If they like mining, they can buy that.
What do you mean buy? You mean buy Bitcoin units?
Yeah, invest. At any time, the government can invest.
Yeah, just like a mafia or a company can
come out with their own Bitcoin wallet, and it says you want to pay taxes, and you go yes, because I don't want to get all the horrible penalties for not paying taxes.
Dustin, just on a semantic level, that is not taxation. Taxation is mandatory.
No, I know, but this resembles taxation enough that I don't think they give a fuck.
They call it taxines in the parlance that I've read.
Taxines?
Taxines, like with EMES. Taxines.
Okay, nice. Like I learned a new word today.
Yeah, this is this new term. It's basically an opt-in. Okay. It's an opt-in blanket sort of charitable donation, I guess you could say it is.
And you're going to do it because the first time we go to World War, you will opt the fuck in. Okay.
So that's
like,
when I'll opt
out.
out. That's when I'll opt out. Fuck that shit. I'm not going to
No. If your country is defending itself during the World War, you will opt in.
No, I run away in my spaceship.
You don't have a spaceship. You don't have a spaceship. I follow you, and if you were crowdfunding a spaceship, I would know.
Okay.
You're right.
So check this out. So we hope that the government would move to a system that would be a voluntary taxation system. We would hope that it would be able to move to a cryptographically provable voluntary blockchain
Don't say
system.
hope is.
But the fact of the matter is that there's no way the IRS would make anything not voluntary unless it was
they would.
Unless it was reformed or overthrown. But that's an opinion. So you think the IRS will seriously come out with a system that's opt-in?
Yeah, no. Why? You can even tell me why. I've been on enough of these shows with you. I know you can.
I can. No, I'm asking you. Wait, no. Okay, so why?
Where could they save the most, and therefore they would do a trial program?
I have no idea.
On the IRS collecting the fees and stuff.
I
couldn't hear you there. What did you say?
Oh, so I challenged him to say, why would the IRS adopt a opt-in Bitcoin, pay your taxes through Bitcoin, through your wallet and stuff, through your normal transactions, and get rid of it all that way? Why would the IRS adopt that? He thought it was too outlandish. Yeah. I say it is totally going to happen within the next 10 years.
Okay, Gabriel, what do you think? Let me ask what you think on that, Gabriel. Do you think the IRS would ever allow an opt-in system? Do you think that the Federal Reserve IRS, would ever allow an opt-in taxation system?
Allow is an interesting and operative word in that sentence.
True.
I think it would. Right. I think they would never choose it voluntarily. So speaking of voluntarism, they may be forced into it because Bitcoin severely restricts their budget. For example, let's say fiat monetary system collapses over the next 20 years or whatever the time frame is. Then they no longer have any budget to pay for security officers to come and break your arm if you don't pay them their protection scheme money. Then they'll be like, hey, you know what? It's voluntary now. Hey, we're being nice, but it's actually just
Gabriel.
Let him finish.
I know what you're doing.
Let him finish.
No, he's taking it. He's taking it to the violence level. And I will say, before the violence level, you can opt in to pay them a fraction so they don't do that.
That's not opting if there's a threat of violence behind it. It's not opting.
That is no, if they don't actually force you to do it, it is opt-in.
If they're threatening to force you, you're still not opting. It's not your choice.
A threat is still not opting.
Yeah, that's either blackmail or coercion.
You're right.
That's coercion.
Coercion. No, I'm not going to disagree with you. It's coercion to make you opt in, and if you don't feel that's a fair opt-in,
there's no coercion to make you opt in. There's coercion to make you do something. You're not opting in if it's not your option. You're being forced.
All I'm saying is that it makes a hell of a lot of sense for local municipalities to pay their police officers and everyone else their Bitcoin transactions that they collect through a wallet, which they distribute, and the IRS comes out with a plugin for you just to say where you live. Therefore, the money goes there.
I love the local idea. I love it. I love you give money to like some security guys that are really sweet and nice, and then you
do you understand the financial benefits to this?
Of course,
financial benefits.
You lose close to 45% of the money, the taxable money, because it goes out of state. Okay. It goes out of your region.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you can say, hey, if you can have a computer program assigning that, the benefits are insane for your local region because now it can justify itself against.
Oh yeah, Bitcoin can create incredible wealth all around the world. It's amazing. It's gonna prevent this wealth extraction. I'm just extremely doubtful that governments will choose to do that. They'll either be.
Okay.
They'll have to because they won't be able to do anything else.
We can make the argument for them since they're willing, at least the U.S. government right now is willing to admit they don't know shit. And so they'll listen to whoever sits in front of them on shows up for the meeting, right?
Hopefully.
We have really good people on our end, right? Talking to government. I'm confident. I'm more confident about government adopting Bitcoin than I've ever been.
Out of necessity, I completely agree. Out of opting in, I don't agree. They'll never volunteer to give up their huge amount of power and influence.
It's never been done before in the history of mankind. I don't think it's going to happen this time.
I believe in the original intention of America to make a great nation free of tyranny, free of the kind of corruption and banks and social structures that impeded Europe for hundreds of years.
So do I, but guess what? Our current government doesn't.
No, but Bitcoin doesn't matter what our government thinks. It just happens.
Bitcoin don't care.
And our government, and they haven't stepped in the way.
Yeah, honey
they're open-minded. They're open-minded at the least time. I never expected them to be open-minded. I thought they'd ban it.
I agree. I think you know what it is that there's just enough people with their act together in government to realize that fighting it would be a total backfire and completely fuck them over, because then you'd have hyper-Bitcoinization, you'd have crazy speculative attack. But I wanted to mention Patrick Byrne in this connection because he made a great comment about the founding fathers being very concerned about what they called factions during when they were writing the Constitution. They were like, "What do we do about these factions?"
Federalists.
That's what the Federalist Papers, right? That's what we call lobbyists and lobbying groups today. Right, and of course, those are the central problem with government.
Look, you have no problem with them when they have a constrained role within the blockchain and that they're clearly identifiable and their transactions are clearly identifiable, because then if they were completely transparent, you have no problem.
I don't know. I mean, it's basically government is basic in this context that we're talking about with tax teams and stuff. Government in the situation of tax teams, government is basically just a middleman. It's another trusted third party that you're outsourcing your service choice to. And like all the trusted third parties existing in a capitalist system, eventually they will be disintermediated. And Bitcoin is the second nail in the coffin. We had the internet as the informational nail, the transactional nail. It has now been hammered, and the rest of them will follow. Government is just a TTP.
But no, there is a lot we can save that is valuable in those systems because they can be turned onto a Bitcoin system.
There's
easily.
I agree. You're never going to have trusted third parties. Probably never going to have them completely go away because people will always not want to have to do something. Hey, it's you outsourcing services, but I think a lot of it, like you said, like you're intimating, is going to be automated. It's going to be blockchains instead of central banks. It's going to be.
But that doesn't mean that we can't still fund music in schools or art projects or cultural exchanges.
Schools, man. I don't know about this school thing. I'm not so sure about schools.
No. If you publicly decentralize the money and they do with what they want, I think you'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm not for government schools. This country didn't have schools for many decades. I don't think they do a good job of it. I don't think they do a good job of much of anything. So, but yeah, I mean, hey, you basically, like you said, in your community, you give your tax scene to the music school. You could have a private school that's teaching music. That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and receives block Bitcoin from the local government, from the local taxes.
You track all the music teachers getting paid. Great.
So let me just interject real quick. Yeah. So what Gabriel was talking about with schools, we're talking about we don't like government-funded, government-controlled schools. We don't like that. We like private schools, that actually publicize their agenda, actually have actually pay attention to their students. Have small classes, things like that. Not just spitting propaganda and spitting, dare programs and things like that. We want, private schools. So that's what he was talking about. We're for schools, just not government-funded, government-run schools. But yes.
We have 50 viewers. We might have to tell 50 people. Someone in here might not know that private schools are good and public schools are bad.
Yeah. Well, we have 15 viewers total right now and 54 that have viewed, but we have 15 in the room right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Daniel.
I'm against all schools. I don't think people should learn it.
Oh, come on, Daniel.
Schools and learning.
Yeah, I know.
You're like on podcast 200. Come on, you did a whole episode on schools.
I like Daniel. Wait, come on, Daniel. Wait.
My school kept me from learning, so I had, I've had.
Same with me.
Yeah.
I went to the same private school for 2 years of preschool, all the way through 12th grade. Private school.
Private. Oh.
I graduated with three. Hey, there were 3 other people in my class, 4 total, to graduate.
There were 3 other people at his private school.
I loved it though. I really did.
I'm sure you loved it. I bet you got a really good education.
I mean, yeah, it's true. The teachers cared, and they didn't make any money because they actually.
What grade was that?
What grade? Every grade.
That was every grade.
I said 2 years of preschool all the way through 12th grade. I was in the same. It was probably about 200 yards long building.
This explains why you understood Bitcoin before I understood Bitcoin. Because let me tell you about my school, okay? My school had like 40 kids and they didn't have enough desks for all the students. It's rural as fuck. They're all cowboys. Whatever happened, it was cool in California. 15 years later, it becomes cool where I am, okay? We now have a film festival, all right? Fuck this shit.
All right.
And you're telling me you had a class of 3 out of class of 2000. There was one economics class available, one, to explain econ and finance. That was senior year, was optional. I took it because, I'm a crazy guy taking econ classes, and my teachers didn't know my name. They knew my nickname because they had so many students. All right. That's public education, man.
Yeah.
Let's
okay.
lay it
I
out.
think we're going to move on to the next subject, but.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to ruin the show. I'm just
I wanted
off.
to, because I asked Daniel, and I asked you. I wanted to see what you guys think. But yeah, for sure.
Public, private.
Somebody in the chat mentioned that, like, okay, you guys went through, the public school, but you came out like all this, and like, yeah, we're rare. Like, there's rare people that actually have independent creative thinking and then go do the research and try to figure out how the system actually works. Most people just go through the system, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to go through the system, and we went through the system, but we didn't. Luckily, we were pretty independent thinkers here, and we.
The system lies.
Yeah, that's the point.
Just want to throw that out there.
That's the point.
They're lying.
Is the system lies? Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Before we do, actually, see how long. Well, we've been going about an hour, so I think we'll probably make this our final topic. Actually,
like the worst Bitcoin news show ever.
Two topics left. I want to do two topics left. So if you guys can hang in there with me, if everybody could go ahead and tweet out the show, Facebook out the show, let everybody know we're here talking Bitcoin. We're going to move on to the next subject. We only have 2 subjects left. This one is actually a pretty, really awesome subject, I think. So basically, let me paste the link into the chat. Looks like Open Bazaar actually launched a few days ago. They actually went live. They were in beta before, but so people could actually create a store and do certain things. But now they actually launched live, and it kind of hit the internet pretty hard there. I got a million tweets, congratulating Open Bazaar passed through my stream, and so I hope that they got a bunch of love. I gave them props as well, because they came in on time and on budget and on time, and which is kind of rare for programming and in general maybe, and then for sure for the crypto space, like this is awesome what they've done. And I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely followed their blog updates. I follow them on Twitter, so I looked at the early versions of the interfaces and stuff like that, and I think Gabriel too saw like early versions of the interfaces. We discussed about that, and we're really happy to see them actually hire real user interface and user experience designers. I mean, the crypto space is very notorious for having bad looking programs, because we're so early into the space right now. So first, let me get Gabriel's take. Let me ask you, what does this mean for the community? What does this mean for the Bitcoin community and crypto community, and what does this mean for the world at large? Are they going to be replacing eBay anytime soon? What do you think? Do you think that this is going to take off fast, slow, or what are your thoughts on OpenBazaar launching?
I think it's going to be gradual, but I do think that it will actually disintermediate eBay eventually. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm not interested yet until they enable completely private connections over Tor, where your IP is not revealed. As soon as that happens, then you'll have a truly free market. But I do think it was very clever of the company that they formed. So, basically these guys are like, okay, how can we make a living out of this open, decentralized, free platform? Well, we're going to make a company that provides a service. We're doing custom stores or whatever they're doing, corporate, private, for-profit stuff, and they use the initial funds because it's so incredibly cheap now to build a great amazing decentralized technology as the basis for your future business. I think that this is a trend that's going to continue. There's going to be other people, for example, with prediction markets or other types of markets. They're going to be building decentralized platforms as a launching pad for a for-profit business model that can't exist without that decentralized platform. And the decentralized platforms that they're all going to think about are going to be huge for human freedom, and they're going to create incredible wealth for humankind. I think it's a wonderful trend. And I just wanted to back you up on what you said about UX. UX is the number one facet of the crypto and Bitcoin space that has the least amount of energy put into it and is most in need of emphasis and development in the industry and the ecosystem. And OpenBazaar taking it seriously is a really great step forward, and I'm really hoping that wallet companies, exchanges, other service providers who have a high user interface emphasis in their business model continue to increase and their user experience emphasis and take it.
Very true. And you just so you know, you were kind of breaking up a little bit there at the end, but I heard you. We definitely got you. And I think that from previous blabs I've seen, when it broke up a little bit here, it actually was clear in the video once we exported it. So, but very, very cool. Glad to hear you agree on the user interface. So very, very important stuff. Horace, somebody in the chat, Horace brought up a bit of a concern how they were censoring products and they're censoring listings. And for me, that really isn't much of a problem. It wasn't designed to actually be, I don't think OpenBazaar was designed to be another Silk Road. It wasn't designed to be a Silk Road 2.0. And to have their products be censored, I just don't think that's going to be actually that much of a problem, because the vast amount of products that you can have on OpenBazaar, if you think about it, I mean, is infinity minus drugs, right? So there's just like a ton and tons and tons of stuff that you could actually have and put on here. Anything from products that are just difficult to get in one region or another, specifically for China. I know that China could really, really use an open marketplace like this. So I just don't have much of a problem with that. Gabriel, I just wanted to hear your thoughts real quick of what do you think about them censoring the products?
Yeah, I think that's basically a function of this bootstrapping process that they're doing. So their whole business model is predicated upon, okay, we need to get money from these, VCs. So I think they actually got funded by Andreessen Horowitz, possibly big VC in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley money. And so they had to agree hey, we don't want to get you guys sent to jail. We promise we won't allow this crap. But eventually we're going to have to because, we're not, otherwise somebody will fork it. So, I think that's why I'm not really like tweeting it out that much. I think it's a great accomplishment that they got it done, but I really think that it's going to be interesting only once those protections are lifted. And if they don't get lifted, then it'll be great to see what forks off of them and the revival of the dark market, which will basically disintermediate all the untrustworthy third parties that currently exist in this underworld of drug and weapon trade happening on the deep web. It'll be great to see a decentralized alternatives for these people to assassinate who they want and sell each other nuclear weapons and dirty bombs and poison and drugs. And actually, obviously I'm kidding a little bit, but in a sense I am serious because as I've written in my blog, Future Rant, which I haven't really updated much lately, but the few posts I did still hold true, which is the fact that weaponry and drugs, especially weaponry and poison, is suppressed in our society, shunts money away from important defensive technologies. We don't have defensive technology that can easily clean up radiation, as far as we know. We don't have easily, imagine if anybody could just grab a, 3D printed carbon fiber or Kevlar, little undershirt that'll protect you from bullets. I mean, these things, the tech for defensive, means is underdeveloped. If we had free access to weapons, I think a lot more research would go into defensive technology, which would then, of course, prevent many of the injuries and deaths that result from terrorism and crimes from governments and.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, the things I think that could get funded. I mean, wow, it's really you can really lose your head, and when you can really go down the rabbit hole when you start to think about how many things could actually be created and invented from Open Bazaar when you can.
Yeah, free energy. Maybe technology that's possibly been suppressed by government. It's been, people have been talking about it for many years. Anti-gravity technology, free energy technology. There's actually, over the last 5 years, there's been quite a bit of scientific research come out directly, basically validating crazy things that we all think of as science fiction, but that are, from a scientific standpoint, completely plausible, like time travel, free energy, and anti-gravity things. This is the type of stuff that we might see on the deep web, maybe, if they can get past those safeguards.
For sure. Hey, a couple of years of this, I think that they really won't be able to be stopped. Definitely, this is a version 1, and I think this version 1 of Open Bazaar is going to be very limited and about what it can actually produce. But again, like you said, the forks after this and just the unstoppability of it, it's kind of like putting Bitcoin. It's kind of like another Bitcoin that's out in the world now, another blockchain that you just can't put it back in the box. You just can't put Open Bazaar back in the box. All this code they made for this open, this open source, this project. So I think that if this one doesn't work, then the next one will definitely will. So Daniel, let me get your thoughts on the launch of Open Bazaar. What do you think?
So I had a lot of
implications.
I had a lot of interesting things to say, and then I found out that it's somehow censored. So that's my first question: is how do they do that?
Actually, I'm not sure how they're doing it, but there was multiple drugs that were put up within 24 hours or so, maybe less than that, maybe, but and some after that, within the first 48 hours, and they were immediately taken down, like within hours. Open Bazaar taken down. How they did that, I'm not technically actually sure. I'm not actually sure, but I know that from the beginning, though, that they agreed. OB1, the company, agreed to cooperate with the authorities in taking down stores.
So I don't know the technical details either. I don't know how they did that, but As long as it's open source and as long as people can copy it, which I believe it is, I'm sure it must be, then I think it's great. I'm not really okay with. Well, no, I mean,
Daniel, you're pro technology. Gee, I wouldn't have known that from you hosting a Bitcoin technology podcast and being on like episode 200.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. All right, I'm done. No, so
no, I want to know what you really think. I want to know what you really think.
I know.
The harm.
Well,
the harm is there. Why do you guys want to discuss the harm? You're all like pro this and pro that, and you're like, oh no, mass suffering. Oh, we'll just put that down in the box.
Well, I want to hear what Daniel was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, before I heard you guys say that they censored drugs, I was going to say, like, the only difference between this and eBay is that there's no censorship. That's literally what I had in my head. I was going to say the only difference is there's no censorship.
And now what do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, but well, now I hear there is. So in terms of this specific market, like, mean, maybe the fees are lower, but I don't really see a ton of benefits over eBay. In terms of the code, in terms of the open source code, if it can be replicated by anyone, then I'm completely okay with it. I want someone else to get in there and to copy the code and to not censor it, because I agree with Gabriel. I mean, maybe it's good.
So it's the same as eBay.
I mean, yeah, if they can censor it, like, what's the difference? I mean, again, maybe the fees are cheaper for some reason, but if they can censor it, what difference does it make?
So basically, let me just step in here real quick. So basically, this is part of the reason why I think that this version 1.0 is not going to get too far, because again, if you think about your standard your merchant, where is he going to put his information? He's going to put his information, his products, where there's eyeballs, and there's eyeballs on eBay, there's eyeballs on Amazon. There's not too many eyeballs on Open Bazaar. Now, what you're asking, why would people do it? Well, there's a couple of reasons right now, and unfortunately, these are kind of
ideological.
That's one, but no. So the first reason is, you're trying to sell products across borders to countries that eBay doesn't support, eBay doesn't support to, or their financial system doesn't work, or whatever. You're trying to sell a product to a country where their financial system is bad. So that's one.
Regulatory arbitrage.
That's one. Yeah. So that's one use case scenario, right? So then the second use case scenario is to literally to have zero fees. It is actually, there is zero fees. eBay will charge you so much, an arm and a leg. I mean, just to add, you want to add another photo, that's another fee. You want to add a little bit larger description, that's another fee. You want to add this, that's another fee. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We're huge, and the percentages continue to go up, by the way, year after year of what they take. So that is the big benefit, is the zero fees and the borderless part.
Okay, yeah, I'm all for that. I think that's great. I think you're right. There are use cases for all of that, and a lot of people will be interested, but I'm still looking forward to the one that's not censored. That still confuses me a little. But one other thing I want one other thing I want to add is I want to echo Gabriel's comment about UX, because the first thing that came to mind when you start talking about a free market is, well, technically we could, if we put enough effort in, we could have a free market. We could just message people like, hey, I want to sell this and I want to charge this much and I'll ship it anywhere, and they could pay me in Bitcoin, whatever.
Yeah, like your daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, right. Do you realize that like the simplicity of what you're talking about applies like that too?
Yeah, it does. It does. We can already sell drugs to anybody we want if we.
No, I was talking about daughters, man. Like,
yeah, I know. I'm just saying anything, drugs, weapons, or whatever. To some extent, we can already just find people and trade whatever we want.
Because you guys, the whole Bitcoin sphere does not talk about the fact that human trade is going on, and if they are including Bitcoin, then we should be denouncing them. because there is no way anyone can legitimize that. And they always dodge that issue. They talk about like illegal trades. They talk about the drugs. Oh, we all feel iffy about the drugs, though. Oh, the assassination plots. Oh, well, we feel iffy about that because that guy is a dick, right? But the human trafficking is real.
Yeah. We did have, I mean, obviously we talked about drugs a lot on the show. We did have at least one episode about the assassination market.
But you haven't had a show about human trafficking.
That is true. And my suspicion is that one of the first things that would come up is, well, you can do it with cash too. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good idea for an episode, and I think we should have it. But to finish the idea about UX, basically all I was saying is, in some ways we can already have a free market with, I don't know, private email or private chat rooms or whatever, or Tor. But if we can have a decent UX around it and actually make it easy, just click a few buttons and a bunch of people can see what you're trying to sell, then that's a huge problem that can be solved. So that's a big part of it.
I mean, the whole human trafficking, child slavery, and assassination markets, it's really difficult.
I don't mean to take you out of your safe space, Gabriel. I just have to say that no one in the Bitcoin media discusses the dark side.
Well, I do.
Gabriel does. I've heard
you're both skeptical. You like to go there and you like to say, I'm going to brush on it.
Well,
right?
Let's let Gabriel
potential. But that's different than discussing it.
Let's discuss this. When you have a situation where a new system is coming into play, there are always voices who bring up terrorism, drugs, child slavery, child sex, child porn, prostitution, forced, whatever.
Yeah,
those things happen.
Hey, do you know why? Why? Like,
because they're real problems.
Yeah, those are real problems because I'm not fucking joking with anyone. I get pictures of underage girls covered with like Bitcoin logos, and they show up in my feed. Like, legit me, okay? You don't understand. I don't put the shit in my gallery because I choose to. I have to, like, censor shit out.
These are art pieces.
These are art pieces. Okay, exploitative art pieces. But the person is claiming that, okay? I have to consciously be like, oh, well, no, thank you, sir. I would not like exploitive children in my art because that shit is real. Because those people were looking for a way out. They found it. We provided it to them. Okay, we provided a censorship-free space. And the consequences of those actions are never discussed. Consequences. I'm talking about consequences. Gabriel?
Yeah, those are real consequences. We're going to have to deal with that in a real way. And there aren't necessarily easy solutions to it. Certainly not, certainly we don't want to, it's the same thing that, governments say. They rarely actually do it, but I think that the sentiment is good, which is, okay, we don't want to crack down on a new technology just because it enables something bad, because, all the good things it enables obviously outweigh it. But
how can we consciously negate, lessen the utility or whatever that people get out of this content?
I think the solution is traditional, what we would call crime solving, but it can be funded in lots of different ways. I mean, for example, you're talking about tax schemes. I'll gladly kick down whatever percentage of my open bazaar purchase. I'm sure it's less than what eBay charges in order to have
you'd be willing to pay taxes.
Outsource.
You'd be willing to pay taxes.
Tax schemes, not taxes.
If it went to protecting women and children from this kind of exploitation.
Right, so I want to outsource these tax schemes. So basically, another difference between taxes and tax schemes is that I'm not willing to force others to support what I think is right.
How much of your total Bitcoin income per month would you be willing to give?
900%. But I think that if we were to have a situation like that where we could outsource,
if you said 5%, if you even said 1%, that's like 10 times more money than they receive.
Right, exactly. Or even 0.1% is
Right.
probably more. It's probably more than 10
Right.
times. Yeah. So
if we were allowed to allocate those taxes,
right. Yeah, and that's the beauty of crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding. This is a great thing when we have it's the power of the people, and that's what these networks do. They empower huge swaths of the population to do these type of things where, okay, let's say, like, once again, in the open bazaar instance, okay, we want to fight child sex trafficking, and there's this tiny fraction of the pie chart that's doing it and buying it or involved in that ecosystem. Everybody else thinks it's deplorable.
Right.
Boom. We put up that crowdfunding.
Easily be able to create financial incentives that suppress the negative activity.
Maybe not easily, but yeah, there's
free market.
Yeah, maybe not easily, but yeah, we have financial incentives. We've got whistleblower, rewards, right? Where you say, okay, hey, out this person, and then somehow prove that they're doing it. And you got to have safeguards to prevent what do you call
Daniel.
it? Framing and everything. To prevent Daniel.
Daniel, I challenge you to have a show where you talk about trying to inspire people to think of how you could safeguard and create negative consequences for people who are doing things illegally in Bitcoin that are obviously harmful.
Yeah, it's a great idea for a movie too. I mean, a private child sex trafficking task force in 2028. You know what I mean? It's badass. What kind of a killer badass with your sawed-off shotgun? You go into that fucking house and well bam, get the thugs. Go find your tough, and you go free the 11. Good video game idea too. The possibilities are just.
It's on.
I'm all for it. We have some ideas for the next few weeks, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, so I just think that this type of conversation stuff doesn't come up too much normally because again the upside is just so huge compared to the downside of what these types of networks bring. Like the internet in the beginning, people talked about the downside as well, popularized the downside until they realized how big the upside actually is. But that's why I think that it gets suppressed. But definitely cool that what we were talking about here, and hopefully Daniel can maybe make an episode of that. So that's very cool. So let us move on to the final subject, the final topic, ladies and gentlemen of the evening.
Wait. Cheers to the Vortex for hosting a free debate where we wandered off topic here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers to you, man, because you're always an optimist about the system, and that's good for you because we need those sort of people, because I'm here pointing out like horrible pessimistic things, and Gabriel's talking about singularities coming in like the next 10 years, and Daniel's like, I don't even know how to qualify you, Daniel. I listen
let me just say this.
podcast.
Let me just say this real quickly. This show, sometimes, people think maybe that it goes off on a tangent and stuff, but that's actually what makes this show this show. I wanted to provide a laid back show in the sense that anybody can be able to, any of the panelists, any of the guests can be able to kind of take the subject that I bring up where they want to bring it, and the reason why I do that is because we always end up at a better place. I'm not sure what he's doing right now. Oh my god! So usually we end up in a better place until Gabriel starts licking memory cards. Sometimes
that was a better place.
32 gigs.
It feels good on the tongue.
Okay then. So
it feels good when it goes down your throat.
All right. So that is my show. No, okay. So let us go to the final topic. Before we move there, I hope everybody is enjoying the show. If you guys are, can you please tweet out the show?
Or if you're not, if you're a Buttcoiner, I want you to submit this to our Buttcoin.
Yeah, and I would like to put out a challenge.
Don't have any clue what they're talking about or whatever you guys talk about. Do that.
I'd also I'd also appreciate if anybody in the audience too could actually maybe once in a while just post one of my shows, one of these shows here on Reddit. That'd be cool. Because if I post it myself, then it gets taken off right away.
Yeah.
I know about that. Yeah. It's taken off right away because it says that I self promotion. So please go ahead and add this to Reddit if you guys.
Wait. Daniel. You don't post your shows to our Bitcoin because you feel like you'd be a douche.
We used to, but yeah, we got called out for it, and it's been months and months since.
And you felt like a douche.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think you felt like it. There's nothing wrong with promoting your own material. I mean, I guess especially if your material is designed to enlighten and educate, other people.
Gabriel, you just joined in the Bitcoin group podcast, the Bitcoin group, right?
What was your question? Somebody was sneezing. What's your question?
You don't submit shit to our Bitcoin.
Occasionally I'll put a little weird question in there.
So
but that's like twice a year, man.
Yeah. So I mean, our BTC. I said Reddit. I specifically said Reddit. So I didn't say our Bitcoin. So if it's either our BTC or our Bitcoin, I don't care. Just if you could just help the show get more viewers and things like that.
That's not where it's at now. It's at Twitter.
Yeah, that's what I prefer. I prefer that platform because it's open and so.
I love me some Twitter.
Yeah,
I can't wait for Twister when we have an open, unregulated Twitter where we've got a bunch of ISIS guys on there talking about where they can get their bomb parts and child sex.
You'd rather know than not know.
I know. Yeah. I don't appreciate them curating my.
Yeah. No. Seriously, this is a real issue because people are like curating their feed. That's like a real fucking thing. I get curated. People add me to like Bitcoin lists. They're like, who's popular